Hello everyone and welcome. Thank you for joining in. I'm Prateek Jain, Director of Digital Experience Platform Services at Axelerant. And I'm excited to bring you this mini-series on replatforming or migration of DXP platforms. If you're part of a digital agency that helps clients transition to more advanced technologies or a digital transformation leader seeking to rebuild your CMS and enhance your digital experience platforms, you are in the right place. Over the past decade or so at Axelerant, we have helped numerous clients make the leap from traditional CMS systems to modern DXP platforms. And we are here to share that knowledge with all of you. In this series, we'll explore a variety of replatforming and migration projects covering transitions like Drupal upgrades, Drupal 7 to 9, 10, 11, Sitecode to Acquia DXP, SharePoint to Drupal, WordPress to Drupal, composable to DXP, or monolithic to composable DXP architectures, and more. We'll deep dive into the specifics of replatforming projects, whether they are small, mid-size, or large enterprise transformation. This will be a 4-part series. In the first part, we will talk about what replatforming is and how is it different than migrations. In the second part, we will talk about estimating these replatforming projects. In the third part, we'll discuss discovery and strategy approach for replatforming projects. And in the last part, we'll talk about how to build and launch these projects and how to grow them post-launch. And to talk more about this, I'm thrilled to be joined by this stellar team of experts from Axelerant. Each of them comes with a wealth of experience on replatforming. They have experience of working on dozens of web platforms and migrating them and replatforming them. Without further ado, let me introduce the team. Starting with Abhishek Dhariwal. Abhishek is a DXP consultant at Axelerant, comes with over 18 plus years of experience in diverse technologies. He is a Drupal contributor, speaker, and a certified CDP consultant. Next, we have Panshul Khurana, staff software engineer at Axelerant. He also comes with a decade of experience with the web development, and he's also a certified Acquia DEM or digital asset management expert. Lastly, we have Sabreena Khursheed. Sabreena is also a staff software engineer with over 12 years of experience in UI, UX, and front-end development, and she's also an Acquia certified expert. Thank you all for joining in, and then welcome to this mini-series, Abhishek, Panshul, and Sabreena.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prateek.
Thrilled to be here, Prateek.
Panshul, maybe starting with you probably, right? I mean, if you can give a quick overview of what's the difference between migration and replatforming and how do they meet different business and technical needs?
So when we use the word migration, the first thing that comes to the mind is the word content, because that's the core of any CMS, that's the core of any website. And migration is generally referred to as a process of moving this data, moving this content from one platform to another, but without changing the overall architecture of the website. But when it comes to replatforming, we are switching the platform, we are moving from one platform to another. And here is where we think about the overall architecture as well. As an example, you may be working on a monolith architecture right now, and you may want to move to a more modern implementation that is headless architecture. So that's the basic difference between the two. And when it comes to catering to different business requirements and technical challenges, as an example, you may want to upgrade your platform or give your platform some new updates. In that case, you should consider migration. But whereas if you are thinking about re-architecting the website, if you are thinking about rethinking about the editorial experience, you may want to think about your integrations all over again. Then in that case, rethinking or replatforming is the solution for you. So that's the when it comes to the requirements, that's the difference between migration and replatforming. Some of the other requirements or some of the other cases where you would consider migration and replatforming is that, for example, you want to scale your website. You want to make sure that you're giving whole new experience to your site visitors as well. In that case, you should consider replatforming as the solution. Whereas you're just looking forward for bug fixes or some kind of security patches or performance improvement, in that case, migration is the solution for you.
Got it. So it's like Drupal upgrades, like from 7 to 11. Is it an upgrade? Is it a migration, or is it a replatforming?
So that's a great example for migration, I would say, because you're changing from one version to another version, but the platform remains the same. The overall architecture remains the same. I know the core of the Drupal changes from Drupal 7 to Drupal 11, but then again, it's the same CMS. Your experience with the CMS from the Drupal 7 version, you're just moving to the latest version, that is Drupal 11 with new features and maybe a new development experience as well.
Okay. Maybe Abhishek, for you, right? How does these replatforming offer businesses an opportunity to modernize their digital presence beyond what a simple migration can achieve?
As Panshul has already explained the key distinction between the migration and the replatforming, right? I'm just extending his words. So what with the times as business grow, the needs and the expectations of the various stakeholders evolves, right? The end user might need to be want a system which is more accessible and inclusive, whereas the other experience. That means he wants more of enhanced user experiences, where the marketeers and the editor team might need to look for a better editorial experiences. Similarly, with various industries like higher education, retails, or healthcare industries might need to give a better personalizations or hyper personalizations experiences to the end users, right? So while these replatforming, you may have all these opportunities to integrate with more modernized technologies to backed up while you are doing replatforming. There are certain scalability aspects and the performance improvements that you want to be implement in your future applications. That's where you look for the replatforming aspects.
Right. No, I know. And then you, especially Abhishek, you are involved with a lot of pre-sales projects as well, where replatforming comes from SharePoint to Drupal, Sitecode to Drupal, and have been part of it, right? I mean, that's a theme that we have seen as well, right? I mean, like, they are looking for something more. I mean, not just like migrating data or content like Panshul you mentioned, but then looking to adopt or integrate with some of these things, figuring out their strategic needs and aligning with their new digital experience platform as well, right? So along those lines, maybe Sabreena, if you can provide some examples that you've come across of replatforming that help enhance the organization digital capabilities. If you can share some examples of the projects that you've worked upon, would help.
Yeah, so as Panchul and Abhishek mentioned, like what is difference between migration and replatforming and how it helps us. So we have come across like there are organizations we have worked with, like there's one of the organization, OSHR, Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights. We have worked with them. So basically, like they initially had websites that's on SharePoint. So they were maintaining everything on the SharePoint. But they came to us, they want to migrate, like for them it was migrate. They want to migrate the content overall thing to a new system where they will get the experience, like they want to improve their content publishing process because the content they were earlier using, it was like decentralized. They were not able to manage it independently. So they were dependent on the web developers or the web teams. So that was main issue for them. And the second, the content wasn't searchable. So there were lots of documents, pages, there are thousands of pages. They were not able to manage them. So that was the main issue for them. And the third thing is they want to make their website that should meet the current standards, compliances, like that should be accessible to every user, whether with special needs or disabilities, they want that accessible. And in the modern times, you want that website should be responsive across all devices. So that's the thing they came with. And with the replatforming, when we replatform with the Drupal, we gave them a one content management system where they have everything, all the assets, all the pages, they were able to manage at one place. So they have a single code base. Basically, they have multiple sites. They have one OSHR, they have another UNHRC that was another site basically for them. And there was an external site to stand up for human rights. So everything came to one at one place, one code base, but they give different parents. Like particularly with the OSHR, that was a very, very huge site with lots of pages and documents. We migrated, like we replatformed. Everything was like from the design, from the scratch, it was rebuilt. Architecture was completely new. So it was more accessible than like we worked on it. Like there were a lot of discovery workshops on that, and we looked at what the user needs, basically what is the current market requirement. So it was all like they have now a decentralized system where the staff members were able to publish the content independently. There was no such dependency, and they were able to search the pages. The site navigation was improved. The site was accessible, like even they can use the screen readers, anything, like it is completely accessible, that site. And there was another site, UNHRC. What happened with that? Like that is also migrated, but they want to keep the same appearance as it has having. So it was kind of a lift and shift migration. They migrated the content, keeping the basic architecture same, but they have it a centralized place where they have the content. And we were able to accommodate, like there was one more standard for human rights, as I mentioned. There were few pages that are a bit different from other pages. So we were able to maintain two themes. So from single code base, there are two themes. One is giving a different look for few pages, and for few pages, we are giving a different look. So it's all managed at one place. It's searchable, accessible, responsive, everything like that we give to them. So that is how, like, this is one of the use cases where we have worked on a lot of things.
Yeah, no, I mean, OSCHR definitely has a lot. And then I think maybe, Sabreena, if I'm not mistaken, this took almost like 1 year to re-platform it from SharePoint to Drupal DXP,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah, it took a lot of time because there were multiple things. But overall, the experience was seamless. Like they did everything. Like it was not just transferring the content. It was everything, like every standard they used, basically. Like it was a living style guide they used. They use the modern techniques. So it was a complete re-platform. That's a good example we can say.
Got it. And then especially because like it was from SharePoint to Drupal, like you mentioned, right? They're decentralized content publishing workflow, right? Adopting to that, like SharePoint, they were not efficient, but how they were publishing, approving, and doing the content moderation, starting from that, improving the user experience side of the things, making the content more searchable, integrating. I think there were these other UN libraries or document or places as well that were integrated with this platform that they have, right? So I think it was a great example of moving from something as proprietary as SharePoint to open DXP like Drupal, and now I guess they have flexibility to kind of embrace other technologies as well, and I think we continue to serve them, right? I mean, on this replatforming journey as well. I believe we'll touch upon more on the OSCHR, I believe, through this journey, talking about how we estimated a discovered it, and what was our strategy about it, maybe in the next few episodes. But then maybe, Panshul, do you have any other example that you want to bring up of replatforming that you have come across?
No, absolutely. And thanks to Sabreena for mentioning about OSCHR. While she was talking about it, I was also thinking about the current engagement that we worked on, and it was for a decking manufacturer, where we moved from a different platform to Drupal website. And in this case, there were multiple different websites with different backends and different front ends to maintain. And we moved it to just one platform. As an example, there were different sites for different regions. There was one site for UK, there was one site for US, there was another site for France and Germany as well. We moved all of these websites to just one platform. So it was more of a multilingual implementation, where we had to think about how would the content play out in this case. Are we going to migrate all the content from all the different regions to just one platform? How is it, since this involved some kind of product integration as well, we had to think about product integrations, product lineups as well. Because when it comes to products, there are multiple attributes related to the products. For example, the pricing of the products. Is the SKU going to be the same for all the products across different regions? So that's another thing to manage as well. And this involved multiple other integrations. For example, initially when this project was on the old CMS, the legacy CMS, there wasn't really a CRM integration in place. We brought in that CRM integration into the new platform. And also we made sure that the orders that are coming in from the website, they are flowing into the CRM integration as well. So we created this whole new integration, which was a completely new experience for the site visitors and also for the editors as well, because now the products were managed in a different way. Initially, they were managed in the form of content, but now they were managed in form of the product content itself, but that too on an e-commerce implementation. And since this is an e-commerce implementation, this is extendable as well. So for example, in future, they want to make sure that this is integrated with some kind of working cart functionality that's in place. The module is already there. You just have to go and enable the module, and the cart functionality will be enabled for you. So that's the kind of implementation that we have done, where this replatforming considered some of the new use cases, some of the new business requirements and new business goals as well.
Right. So, I mean, in this case, it was more like from an homegrown CMS to an Acquia DXP stack. Was that the technology?
Absolutely. Yes. The complete Acquia DXP was involved. The site was hosted on Acquia Cloud, and this was and the product lineup was on Acquia DAM and PIM. That's what we integrated with the new platform. And yes, the complete Acquia DXP was used in this case.
Okay. So just for our audience as well, right? I mean, so replatforming is not just about like any specific stack. I mean, we are talking about like migrating from SharePoint to Drupal or Sitecore to Aqueous Tech kind of a thing, or homegrown CMSs like we have been seeing this large decking manufacturer where there was some disparate system that they were using, multi-site serving multi-geographies as well, right? And bringing them to one place. So there's a lot more to replatforming. The more and more I think all three of you share, right? It's not just about building this platform, but then the entire strategy that comes around with these things, right? So on that, right? I mean, maybe it's important to dig deep further into it, right? To understand why you should replatform as well, right? So should it be seen as a long-term strategy rather than a short-term solution? Because does it feel like migrations are more like moving from one stack or migrating the content from one platform to another, right? And is it a short-term strategy as compared to the replatforming, which would be a long-term strategy? Maybe one of you want to talk more about it?
Since I recently worked on this particular engagement, the example that I just shared, I was closely able to understand the differences between the two, migration and replatforming, and why you should consider replatforming as more like a long-term solution instead of a short-term solution. Because when it comes to replatforming, we talked about it, that, it is all about re-architecting your website. It's all about rethinking about your platform. You may want to think about your integrations as well. So what you're doing is you're doing good amount of rework to ensure that you have the new website on a new platform with good performance, good presence as well, good user experience, and good editorial experience. So there's a lot of background work that goes when you're moving to a new platform, and hence you want to consider it as a long-term solution. So the first reason why you should consider it as a long-term solution is because of the scale of the project. When it comes to migration, you're just thinking about upgrading. Maybe you're just thinking about making sure the performance is improved. Maybe you're just thinking about you're moving to a completely new version with good amount of security releases. But when it comes to replatforming, you're changing the complete platform. You're changing the complete experience. So this is about the scale of the project. And I think this is the first reason why you should think of replatforming as the long-term strategy instead of a short-term solution. And the other reasons is that you're future-proofing your website as well. What you're doing is you're implementing some of the modern solutions, and you're making sure that this platform is extendable as well. So let's say if there is a new feature that comes in related to an e-commerce implementation, or let's say there's a new feature comes in that is associated more with a headless architecture. You want to ensure that this new platforming caters to that new feature as well. So you're making sure that your website is future-proof as well, and that is the reason why you should consider replatforming as a long-term solution instead of just a short-term solution and thinking about it all over again.
Got it. So is it fair to say like replatforming gives you that opportunity to, like Sabreena mentioned, improve the UI UX, improve the content architecture, or the monolithic to composable architecture, going headless or any other way, right, which is future-proof as well, aligning with the future needs. And more, I think a few of the examples, and maybe Abhishek, you would have come across those examples as well during the pre-sale stage, right, where people are looking for more composable architectures because they need an option, especially like marketing teams looking for an option of switching the CDP, switching their personalization, and switching their marketing automation. So more flexibility as well, right? But at the same time, I think the content architecture for these DXP, as DXP's definition, right, the content is still one of the core area, right? You still have to manage, and you need a CMS to build a DXP platform, right? And replatforming does give an opportunity to clean up the content as well and then architecture as well, right? So maybe, Abhishek, if we can talk a little bit more about how does this replatforming impact content architecture and what consideration should be made by the businesses during this transformation or during this replatforming?
Correct, Prateek. As you know, Panshul has already highlighted a lot of replatforming needs and how it evolves, right? And so, for example, when businesses undergoes in replatforming, right, they can leverage the modern design patterns. For example, they could adopt atomic design patterns and component-based development. Now, which enables these editors and the site builders to reuse these components from pre-defined component libraries, right? This shifting of this paradigm requires an update in the existing content architecture, where the technical team might need to restructure their existing content types and their content strategies, and potentially they could drop some unused content type from previous architecture. So now the businesses might there could be challenges how they could realign their existing content with this new architecture. So so businesses must aware about the potential impact of this restructure on their existing content, and then to mitigate these content losses, businesses must do a thorough content audit and alignment exercise with these updated content architecture. So so re-architecture or replatforming does introduce a new content architecture.
That kind of reminds me, of what we did with OSCHR as well, right? So, Sabreena, the example that you took, right? So we obviously did the entire content strategy along with our partners and did an entire taxonomy review to improve that content architecture. And that was one of the very significant exercises before even we could get to the UI UX phase of replatforming, right? So it's so important to kind of align on this. I don't know, Sabreena, it was a long time ago, how much you recollect that phase, but then we did a lot of work over there. Maybe we'll cover up more on it during our strategy phase. But anything that you would like to add, Sabreena, on related to that?
Yes, definitely. Like I would like to add on that point that Abhishek mentioned. So when we are seeing the replatforming, like the UI UX, we are changing. So what happens is like while replatforming, we are considering like it should be flexible enough so that we can scale it. Like earlier, what was happening, it was tightly coupled, like the back end, front end. So it was tightly coupled. But now with the new modern technologies we use, if we consider that, we can make it more scalable. Like it will be loosely coupled. Suppose we are using some design systems. Suppose we are using the pattern lab or some fractal or some other system. So with that, when we build that, we take that into consideration. We are making it loosely coupled so that tomorrow if we are shifting to headless kind of thing, it's easily to move. Like we have to just move the components, though we have to do some homework on the other technology also. But it's not like we have to rewire everything. We have to start from the scratch. It's just that we are moving the components, everything like the styles, JS, everything we can move, and then we have to just integrate there. It's not like if it was like tightly coupled, then we could not have done anything. Like it's already coupled. So it's just we are moving components and then we just need the data. That's it. We have to integrate the data with that because the structure is already built. We don't need to recreate that structure. So it will really help if we consider those things. If we have to scale in future, if we have to change, maybe we have to go for the headless approach, then we can definitely do with this approach.
Got it. So does this DXP recommendation, like how, Abhishek, maybe to you, right? When customers comes to you, right? Do they already know which DXP they want to re-platform to, or do you recommend them as well? Like, hey, choose this versus that.
Yeah. So sometimes they have specific choices, and and sometimes we have to suggest them based on their requirement analysis. So yeah, there are kind of customer segments where either they need a consultancy on a better replatforming, or there might be cases where they have a certain mindset and better process understanding of the existing system, and they come prepared where they need to shift on the future technology expansion.
Got it. So even in the RFPs that you work upon, right? Sometimes they are open, but sometimes they are very specific which platform they want to re-platform to, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
It
Interesting.
all depends. Yeah.
All right. And again, maybe more to cover upon the strategy, but kind of a fun question, and maybe all of you can go around it, right? What platforms, like I'm trying to understand, like what source platforms you have migrated or re-platformed to? Not like you may have migrated to Drupal, Acquia, Sitecode or whatever, right? But what examples that you've come across, all of you, like be it Sitecode to Drupal and things like that, if we can go, maybe starting with you, Panshul, what examples you have worked with?
So I've closely worked on examples from WordPress to Drupal. I've closely worked on examples from Craft CMS to Drupal. And mostly it has been from WordPress to Drupal because that's what, I've catered to the multiple requests related to WordPress to Drupal itself. But yeah, this was a recent engagement where I worked on a platform where I moved the website from, when I say the complete team, because I represent the team as well. We moved the platform, we moved the website from Craft CMS to Drupal. So that's the recent example that I have.
Got it. Sabreena, what other examples you have come across?
Yeah, recently I have I have worked with from Craft CMS to Drupal. Before that, it was SharePoint to Drupal, even WordPress to Drupal as well. And then from, I think quite long before, from .NET to Drupal, it was there as well for some of the common projects. I think it was quite old. And then, then from one Drupal platform, Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, we have done, there is a shift in the architecture. So there was complete revamp of that. Drupal 8 to 9, it is not much, but from Drupal 7 to Drupal 8, it was a shift. We have to change the overall, at least the front-end architecture as well. So quite a lot of examples like this one I just recall.
So even like Drupal can be considered as a replatforming. Like even when you're upgrading, sometimes we
Yes.
do activities which is more like a rebuilding the platform. It's just that they chose to stick with Drupal as a DXP platform.
Yes. Even
Okay.
Drupal 6 to Drupal 8, I believe I have worked.
Oh yeah, what's the earliest Drupal version all of you have worked with? I've worked with Drupal 6, Abhishek.
Six.
Drupal
maybe
5.
Drupal 5.
I started
yeah.
6.
Yeah,
I
long
started
back,
my
right?
journey with Drupal 7. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You came in a lot late, Panshul, then I guess. But Abhishek, over to you, right? Because you work with again on the pre-sale side, a lot of RFPs and all. You may have come across various other techs as well from which you have replatformed or at least been in discussions of replatforming these other technologies as well. What are some of the other examples that Sabreena and Panshul have not taken?
So I just recall the interesting case study that we completed. One, that's not exactly a migration or replatforming, it's a just upgrade. That is the national law review. But interestingly, where that is an interesting story because it migrated from D6 to D7. Now D7 was incomplete, and that comes to us where we used Acquia migration accelerator to migrate it from D7 to D9. So now the site is completely migrated and up and running on a D9 version.
And
That was
hopefully
amazing.
D9 to D11 as well coming soon as well, or
Yeah.
already in progress.
Correct. Yeah.
Awesome. No, this helps. And then one other broad question, right? I mean, because this replatforming takes a lot, not just out of the development team. Obviously, we come at the strategy phase, helping out the customers choose the right DXC platform, implement it, launch it, and all, right? What impact does it have on the customers and the businesses themselves? Like anybody coming from SharePoint to Drupal Acquia world, right? Do they need a lot of training, a lot of mindset shift to adopt these platforms? Have you seen challenges with that? And if yes, how you have coped up with it? Maybe to you, Sabreena, if you've seen certain examples like that, or Panshul, Abhishek, whoever wants to take this up.
I'll take an example over here for the recent work that we did. So when it comes to the thinking about your landing page or thinking about the detail page, you have to think in terms of whether the content is structured or not. So there are different ways to display the content. There's unstructured content, there's semi-structured content, and there is structured content. So when we talk about these three types of content, it is about displaying. It is also about the way you want to display the data on the front end. So when it comes to unstructured content, the editor is free to display the content anywhere, be it any block. The editor has the freedom to display the block anywhere on the site, on the page. When it comes to the structured content, there is defined way of displaying the block. And when it comes to the semi-structured content, it is more of giving the flexibility to the editors and also following some kind of structure. So that's one thing that is really important when you're thinking about the content architecture of the site and displaying the content in a certain way. And this requires good amount of training as well. So for example, if you are moving in from Craft CMS to Drupal, Craft CMS has a certain way of doing things. Now Drupal has a certain way of doing things. Drupal has its own way of adding the blocks in place. There's something called as in-place editor. So you have to use the in-place editor to display or to add the block onto the page. And then when you save the settings on the page, you'll be able to display that block on the page right away. So that's one thing. And it involves some kind of training as well. And as Sabreena also mentioned, since when we think about the site, we think about content components as well, so that these components are reusable across different pages. And this is where another example comes into picture, where we integrated Site Studio for one of the websites that we developed. And Site Studio is all about developing different components. And when it comes to using Site Studio, it also requires some kind of training. So we have to think about that as well, that you have to cater to different requirements, cater to the editor's requirement as well. And you have to also make sure that it is easy for editors to understand how to create the page, how to create the component. So these are few things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to replatforming, and also make sure that you are also catering to different business requirements. You're not making the task difficult for the editors to manage on the site.
Got it. No, there's so much that all of you have already mentioned, right? I'm really excited to looking forward to the third part of the series where we really deep dive into the discovery and strategy of this platforming, because it's so much, right? Content strategy, UI UX strategy, architectures, the technology, recommendation of the DXP platforms, and then launching and things like that. There's so much to kind of talk about, including the training, right? Because like you said, right, I mean, the training can sometimes be messy. Like for OSTH, I recollect that there was a large team, Sabreena, I believe, who wanted to learn this DXP platform or Drupal-based platform. And it took us a while to kind of train them. And then over the period of time, they got self-sufficient with the training manuals and sessions and all, right, to do that. But yeah, thank you all of you for joining for this first session. I think in the next session, we will cover more about how to estimate it before we get to the discovery and the strategy side of the thing. But yeah, thank you all for sharing your insights about replatforming projects, what's and why's behind it. Yeah, in the next part, we will talk more about how to estimate it. And thank you. And looking forward to the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.